Welcome to class. This week we've been learning all about the different parts of a clock, and today we're going to use that knowledge to learn to tell time to the hour. And you know what's really exciting about that? That means that each of you is going to be able to tell time all by yourself. So you'll be able to know when it's time for lunch, or time for your favorite TV show, or even when it's time for recess. So you want to be sure that we're being good listeners today so that we can leave this lesson knowing how to tell time to the hour. All right, and so we're going to start with a review of what we've been talking about this week. Then we'll learn how to actually tell time to the hour with those different parts of a clock. And then we'll work together with our partners to tell time, and then you'll have an opportunity to draw on one of your very own clocks, okay? So let's get started with our review. So here we have our analog clock face and a digital clock face. And you guys have seen these earlier this week, you'll remember that. But it looks like something's missing from our analog clock. Does anybody know what might be missing from this clock face? Yes, Kelly.
The shorthand and the longhand.
That's right. We do have a longhand and a shorthand that are missing, but those aren't the words we use to talk about them. So we do have our longhand here, and you'll remember that our longhand shows us minutes, and so it's actually called the minute hand. And our shorthand shows us hours, and so its name is the hour hand. So when we're talking about time today, those are the words we're going to use when we talk about these pieces of the clock. So we have our minute hand and our hour hand. And so here on this clock, it's showing us 9 o'clock. Now let's go up here and we'll show you how we use the different pieces to tell time. All right, so anytime we're telling time to the hour on an analog clock, our minute hand is going to be pointing straight up at the 12. That's a pattern we're going to see over and over again, so it's important to pay attention to that. Our minute hand is always going to be pointing straight up at the 12, okay? Then our hand, much like its name tells us, is going to show us what hour it is. So let me draw my hour hand in. And so here you'll see our hour hand is pointing at the 5. So this clock is showing us 5 o'clock. And that's how you say it when we're seeing time to the hour. It's an o'clock, okay? We have our minute hand straight up at the 12 and our hour hand pointing to the hour. Okay. Now let's see if we can transfer this time over to our digital clock face. And you'll remember that our minutes go on this side and our hours go on this side. And so there's another pattern we're going to see when we're telling time to the hour, and that is when we're using a digital clock, anytime it's on the hour or we're telling time to an o'clock, we're going to have a 0, 0 in the minutes side. And that's because we are right on the hour. We don't have any extra minutes. We have 0 extra minutes. And so that's why those zeros go there. And then for the hour side, we need to fill in the number that is the hour. And so we'll look to see where our shorthand, our hour hand is pointing, and it's pointing at the 5. So we put the number 5 here in the hour spot. And so now our digital clock shows us 5 o'clock, and our analog clock shows us 5 o'clock. Awesome. Okay, now let's do another example. I'm going to write a time, and I want you to turn to your partner and talk about what time you think it is, okay? And then you're going to write in on your clock face in front of you what that time is. So each of you has these blank clock faces in front of you. On your digital clock here, I've written it on our analog clock. So go ahead and turn to your partner and talk about what time you think that is, and then together you'll draw that here on your digital clock, okay? So go ahead and partner off and work with your partner and talk quietly amongst yourselves. Okay. That looks great. Okay, it looks like everybody's wrapping up. Awesome. All right, So why don't you show me what your clocks look like? It looks like everybody was working together nicely, that we came up with some times together. Does anybody know what time this is here? Katie, why don't you?
My partner said 3 o'clock.
What do you think, Katie?
I think the same thing.
Awesome. That's right. It is 3 o'clock. And I bet you and your partner probably talked about some of the patterns we talked about earlier, about how our minute hand is pointing straight up at the 12, so we know it's an O clock, it's right on the hour, and our hour hand is pointing at the 3, so we know that's what o'clock or hour it is. It's 3 o'clock. And you'll have written that like this on your digital clock. Is that what we've got? It looks like we're in agreement. Awesome job, you guys. Okay, so now I want you to erase any numbers you have on your clock faces, and I'm going to call out a time, and I want you to show me what that time looks like on both of your clocks this time. We wrote in for the digital, but now we're gonna have to use the minute hand and the hour hand to fill it in here too, okay? So why don't you show me what 8 o'clock looks like? Go ahead and take your time to fill in the hands and draw in your numbers. And when you're done, I just want you to hold your clock in front of you so I know you're done and ready and your eyes are on me. All right. If you need any help, just raise your hand. I'm happy to come and talk with you about it. Just remember those rules we talked about, those patterns that we keep seeing. Okay, it looks like everybody's done. All right, so I did one too. And this is what my clocks look like. So our minute hand is pointing straight up at the 12, because that's the pattern we're gonna keep seeing today when we're telling time to the hour. And our hour hand is pointing at the number 8, because it's 8 o'clock, that's what hour it is. And we know on our digital clock, we're gonna have those 0 zeros, because that's the pattern we're gonna continue to see when we're telling time to the hour on a digital clock. And the hour is 8, so we put an 8 in on this side. Is that making sense? Mm-hmm. Everyone did a really nice job. Let's do one more practice, okay? So go ahead and erase your boards again. And now I want you to show me 11 o'clock. So you're gonna do the same thing, fill in those hands and numbers. I'm gonna do mine too. All right, it looks like everybody's done. Here's what mine looks like. Does anybody want to tell me why they made their clocks look the way they do? Yes, Kelly.
I put the minute hand on the 12 and the hour hand on the 11.
Very good. The reason we do that, we know that pattern for telling time to the hour. Our minute hand is going to point straight up at the 12, and our hour hand is going to point to whatever hour it is. So in this case, it'll be pointing at the 11. And on our digital clock, we've got a 0 0 in the minute spot because we're right on the hour. We don't have any extra minutes. That's the pattern we see. And then we have the number 11 in our hour side because that's what the hour is. All right. Great job, everybody. Throughout the day, I'll definitely be checking in to see if you guys can tell me what time it is. So be sure you're thinking about what we learned today.